All right, live back in action. New setup, new scene, new partners, lots of new stuff going on, new contracts, new everything. Hockey playoffs started tonight. As we are kind of getting going here, first thing we'll talk about because it's the biggest news, and I don't really care how the last 2 weeks have gone for you guys. Um, Jay, that's usually how we start.
Oh, 2 weeks. Just
Jay,
seeing you too.
Jalen Hurts got 5 years, $255 million. Lamar Jackson sits there unsigned. There's a bunch of guys out there. Jalen Hurts' agent is flexing like Kirk Cousins' agent out there. So, not a surprise contract, but how do you feel about the dollars and like where did things land here?
I think it showed the Super Bowl he was worth every penny. I think it's that simple.
Yeah,
Like I think the compensation's proper. Like every year, a quarterback's gonna like knock out the next one. And like when you see these contracts, yeah, he's the highest paid quarterback today. When the next quarterback comes in, he's gonna bump down that list.
right.
So like when it's all said and done, he'll probably be a top seven paid quarterback in the league, and that's kind of where I would put him. Like when by the time his contract's up for extension again,
Right.
that's
Okay.
the way I
Okay.
look at it, right?
Okay.
He'll be a top seven paid guy, and then he's gonna leapfrog to the top of the line again. Like Patrick Mahomes now, like that was the most ridiculous contract anyone's ever seen. And I think now he's fourth on that list now.
And what's psycho about that is like they still owe him all the money, right? Like
Yeah,
he hasn't even had his cap hit yet.
yeah. So like that's kind of what I'm saying. It's like I think it sounds wild today, but like over the length of the contract, it's the proper compensation.
One thing you got to look at with that though is now that they're paying him this, I think he well deserved that money. But I worry about how you build around him. Look at how the Chiefs, yeah, they won the Super Bowl. Mahomes doesn't have a lot of pieces around him, so it's going to be interesting to see how the Eagles now build with
They don't have
their
to.
future
They
QBs.
got like 9 people under contract through
Yeah,
2025.
they just lost their secondary. That's it though.
Pretty much, and they didn't even. They picked it right back up. And they lost like Gardner Johnson, right? Yeah, they basically kept everybody else, right? I don't know. Like you guys know that I'm not fully sold on the whole Jalen Hurts as being like the top tier quarterback still here,
Right.
but I do think that the contract is kind of it makes sense now. I've mentioned a couple times to you guys over the last year or so that I didn't used to buy into the whole like drama side of the NFL that some things may actually be scripted. We've had some like inside jokes of NFL players talking about and stuff, but it's rather ironic that the same deal that Lamar turned down years or a few months ago that was reported by Schefter and more is basically the deal that Jalen Hurts signed. And we all know that the owners have been very open. This isn't it's a very open secret, I guess, that they all hate this Deshaun Watson deal, right?
Oh yeah.
So to tell me that there isn't some sort of back alley action where some owners calling and saying, this is what we're offering Lamar, okay? And we obviously want to screw over this Deshaun deal. So go in there kind of similar to what we're thinking, and that way we can go to Lamar and say, well, this is what Jalen Hurts just got, and he's went to the Super Bowl, right? Like it makes sense.
Right.
I'm buying a lot of conspiracy theories when I say that, but it just that there's a whole lot of shit that seems to be stacking against the Ravens. They're signing OBJ, right? It seems like they may be chasing a wide receiver in the draft too. They're really
Apparently they're in the run for D-Hop.
yeah, then well, D Hop was kind of like he got interviewed and was like the Ravens and the Bills were the teams that like he kind of said without the body language, right? Where he said he wouldn't mind going, right? If I can play with Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson, though, like I'm gonna play with Josh Allen.
Yeah.
Big worry there, though. Like I agree with you there. We'll come to the Bills. Like I got a big worry how strong that team's going to be this year when they just lost their defensive coordinator, who was the
Right.
heartbeat of that. I know that you got Josh Allen being the heartbeat like of the offensive team, but on the defense, that was the heartbeat. I don't care about Von Miller being there. I don't care about the defensive line. The defensive coordinator did everything. And he's stepping away. I'm worried about what that's going to do for the team, right?
Yeah.
Whereas in the Ravens, like as long as they can stay healthy, this team still finds ways to win. Oddly enough, every single year, right?
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. And like, the Ravens are one of those franchises that even if they don't end up with Lamar Jackson back, you know that they're going to solve their quarterback issue, whether it be trading up in this draft or they know that they have something on their roster, which clearly they don't. I mean, they don't.
Huntley's not
That's not an option
Anthony
right now,
Brown.
but they're one of those organizations that figure it out, and they are modeled after the Pittsburgh Steelers model, and that's not to say that they're like little brother to like big brother kind of thing, even though it kind of is. But that that is how they're built. Um, but they'll get it figured out. The real issue is going to be, can they figure out this Lamar Jackson contract the way that they want to? And yeah, the Deshaun Watson thing definitely turned things upside down. But the Jalen Hurts and the next one to fall is going to be Joe Burrow. And
Joe Burrow and Trevor Lawrence. Like those are the next two
yeah,
to get paid.
well, TL's next year, right? So, but
Joe
Burrow's
Burrow
this year.
this year, he has gonna be
Yeah,
this year, and then you've got Trevor Lawrence be the next one, and then Justin Fields.
yeah,
Like those are three guys who are gonna get paid. And so a guy like Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields, like they have to have monster years.
right,
Because like Justin Fields was compared to Jalen Hurts.
right,
So now it's like his ceiling's now set for him where he needs to get to. And where are you gonna pay him?
right. And talking about getting paid, the boys got paid too. Eh?
Yeah,
We signed a fresh deal. Liam sent me the thing.
It's like,
The guys over at Betstamp have been so generous with us. They've definitely hooked us up with a new partnership. Obviously, we're sports gamblers. We like to get involved, and we know that the best place to find the absolute maximum value for your picks is to go to Betstamp. We even corrupt this guy who had never had an account before, started following our picks and just said, "Hey man, like this is way more fun knowing that I could just follow your picks."
Yelling about curling. And
Yeah.
yeah,
You can follow your
ping pong at 4 a.m.
follow your buddies. You can follow people that you think are making lots of money on the ROI. But this is the Trivago of sports betting, and it will give you the odds for all your books. If you have money in 5 accounts, you can set it up so that those 5 accounts are the ones that you're looking at. If you have none, hit us up because we can get you some money to start some. But use that promo code going for two when you download the free
GF2.
GF2.
Sure,
Use the
that's
promo
That's
code
what happens. Take a couple weeks off.
yeah. You use the promo code GF2 when you download the free app. And like I said, DM us because we can definitely help you out. And we'll kind of go from there. But you see some of the beauty merch here, some of that lovely swag that we got drinking out of. And it was just time. We'll talk a little bit more about Betstamp as we get on throughout the show here. And, we're definitely going to talk all about football today. But my hockey bets today, I got the Hurricanes and the Islanders over 5.5, which seems like a lot of goals for a playoff game. And I got the Bruins to keep rolling and win by 2.
Especially with the goalies playing in net for there for the Islanders and Hurricanes, that is a little scary. But I think you can find the good odds over at BetStamp and hit the over at plus money maybe.
I
If
hit
you go to that
I got plus money with Botano.
plus money on an over, that could be dangerous tonight.
Hey, we're dialed in. Kalen's wife's watching to make sure that he's here. Don't worry, Cindy, he's here. It's all good. Um, but yeah, as we get back to the quarterbacks here, the Joe Burrow contract's gonna be interesting. The Lamar Jackson thing's interesting, especially with the Odell Beckham signing, which the NFL kind of did us a favor and did a whole bunch of this stuff over the course of the last 5 days, so we have lots to talk about. But um, I know Chad was all over hot takes and pancakes with the surprise signing of Odell. But does this mean for sure that Lamar's back, or does this just mean like
It's
they don't care?
they don't care. They gotta show they don't care. Like you're bringing a receiver who hasn't played football in a year. He's got one leg, and his biggest assets are his cuts and stretching the field. But now he only has one leg, and like he's not a number one receiver. So what are you gonna put him in like? Who you bringing in? So he's the compliment. Why he was so good in LA was he was a compliment to Cooper Cup, and now what? He's now the best receiver in Baltimore.
Yeah, besides, I mean, Rashard Bateman, who
You watch your mouth when you talk about him.
most people wouldn't know who he is, but I actually think he's not bad.
He's got a big old reach, right?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
but he's not bad. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. No, but now what I wanted to point out, I said this actually today when I was talking to somebody arguing back and forth about the value of Lamar and everything. It's so funny how fickle us fans can be. I didn't think about it until it came to my realization today, but the OBJ one's a great example. You got a guy who hasn't finished a season in 2 years. He's got one leg that we don't even know is actually still good, and the guy got paid $18 million, $15 million that guaranteed.
yeah,
And they're getting made fun of by a lot of teams around the league for the amount of money they put forward for OBJ, not for signing him because it's going to eventually get you, or hopefully get you, Lamar
yeah,
Jackson, right? But it's the fact of how much they paid for him to go there. Now you're looking at sinking 250 million, and this isn't like that's an eighth the size of the contract what Lamar is going to get, who also hasn't stayed healthy on the field for the last 2 years, is the most important position on the field. If he wasn't a quarterback, nobody would say boo about that, right?
yeah,
Like,
yeah, exactly.
But like OBJ gets hyped on or gets ripped on for being injured all the time and getting this payment, and Lamar, same thing. It's funny how we can look the other way for the quarterback, but the wide receivers or the running backs or the linemen, they're injury prone. We don't want to pay them kind of thing.
Well,
Right?
And look to the running back market. No one got paid.
and
Derrick Henry, not this year, but Derrick Henry's still carrying it.
what's going to end up happening is like, let's just hypothetically say that Lamar Jackson's back, and you got OBJ at like a crazy number, and you got Bateman, and whether you bring in D Hop or you get another receiver in the draft, whatever, like that's your new room. But you also got rid of Greg Roman. So you got rid of all of that running scheme. So if they're planning on making Lamar Jackson into Josh Allen, where you just run or you throw it 70 times a game and you run your own sweeps, I think Baltimore's going to suck.
But there's
Like they're
another
going to be really bad.
But there's another example, right, where we've made fun of Baltimore's offense for like 5 years now, and how basic it is, and how simple it is, and
Yeah.
everything, right? So I feel like if that is the truth, then the schemes that they've installed are it can be easily carried over to whatever offense comes forward next, right? And I don't think there's going to be a huge transition there, but I think Greg Roman was stale shit. I'm not a Ravens fan. I like to see them suffer, but I think that they were certainly stale, and I think it was a time for a change for him. Is he taking the year off? I know he was like being looked at with another team potentially, but what happened with him? Did he sign with anybody?
No, he went to Washington.
He did go to Washington. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, everybody kind of goes for redemption.
Yeah, well, I mean, he left Lamar Jackson to go coach Sam Howell. That that kind of tells you where
The Devils are the part owner of those Washington Commanders soon, eh? You know that?
That sounds about right.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
And with sisters.
I'm not really sure why that would matter, but
Well, I'm a Devils fan. Just bring it.
Are
Just
you
brought
gonna
hockey,
be,
right?
a Commanders fan?
No, no, no.
He switched.
I'm just hoping they can bring the team back to some sort of glory, man. 'Cause that's terrible. Right? I mean, how terrible. He also owns the Sixers, a Philly team. So a Philly team guy is owning. Man, that's not good for them.
Philly teams had a tough year last year, man.
7 Eagles.
Between the Super Bowl, no, between the Super Bowl and the World Series, they lost 2 championships. That's not easy.
Hey, well, they do think Rocky's real, so
This year they're just chasing that MVP. They'll be satisfied with that.
Yeah.
Man.
And like as everything develops, obviously I think we're exactly 10 days away from the draft now, right? So
it's been better.
uh,
Best man.
yeah, there's been so much like movement on who's happening here, and if you watched my weekend update on Sunday, I'm getting the sense that there's going to be more quarterbacks taken in the first round than wide receivers, which I don't know the last time that happened. I was trying to research it and then I lost. I don't have that much of an attention span, as you guys know, but I lost track doing it. But when do you think the last time that happened? More quarterbacks than receivers in the first round.
It's got to be at least probably 7 years ago. It hasn't been lately. Receivers are flat off the boards the last few
Yeah.
years.
I was thinking like the year that Claypool went to the Steelers, but only because I don't remember who the receivers were in the first round. So like that would have been
I think that was like JJ Ortega Whiteside, like just a few like not
okay. So you think they were
players.
just like junky guys taken in the first round
Yeah.
there? Yeah, I mean that's possible too. But I mean, do you see what I'm laying down here? I mean, right now, last year we had one quarterback taken. If you believe the PFF analysis, that one quarterback would be the first overall pick this year. So they're saying that this class is weaker than last year's class. However, they're getting far higher values. So, I mean, to me, Bryce Young is your first overall
They
pick.
canceled all his meetings after today after we met with Carolina, so it's
Yeah,
got to be a done deal.
yeah. I mean, he's seen like he's the most pro ready. He's been at the top of his game the entire time. CJ Stroud, I think, is probably going to be the best overall quarterback in the class. And then Anthony Richards is a freak athlete, which on Rick's show, I said that he's Jamarcus Russell as a transformer. So, but I also think that Levis isn't going to be too bad either. So overall, I think Hayden Hooker is going to sneak in, and if someone gets super desperate, you could see Tanner McGee sneak in. And I mean, at that point, you're looking at 6 first-round quarterbacks. There's definitely no chance there's 6 first-round receivers.
Is it Hayden or is it Hendon?
I don't know.
It is Hendon.
Hendon Hooker, yeah.
Yeah.
What I've seen is like they're kind of mocking only like 4 or 5 receivers the first round. But that all depends on if teams really want to reach on a fifth guy or wait till that second round
Yeah.
and maybe see if he's still there because it's a deep class, so they're not just going to rush and grab somebody unless they're very confident that that's going to be a guy that they can look forward to in the future.
Yeah, I mean, mock drafts are one thing and like seeing what's happening, but I think that the teams know, like the teams know who's going to fall out of the first round before it starts, right? Like we were surprised by the Laramie Tunsil thing, but like I think that was already predetermined. Everybody already knew. Like I think it's pretty safe to say Jalen Carter doesn't fall out of the top 10, but he's probably going to be with the Bears. Um, but I think that the way things are going, like it looks like Jordan Addison is going to be one of those guys that falls out of the first round. And I view him as like T. Higgins going to Cincinnati. I think that Addison, if he falls out of the first round, he ends up being the second round or the first pick in the second round of the Steelers, or them trading out to give that pick to somebody else. Like I think that's going to be a really valuable pick when it's all said and done.
I've seen a guy like Jalen Hyatt too. When he first came out at
Mhm.
like the end of the college season there, he was looking at like in the 20s and 30s for as a first round pick, and now you see him down in like the 40, 50 range. Like if a guy like that sitting there, anyone wants an athlete that's 6 foot. I think he's like 6'3", 200 pounds, and runs really smooth. Just has some issues on field with doing some not so smart things. So it'll be interesting to see really who takes who, and I think there's gonna be some second and third round receivers that will make some noise.
I prefer Tillman to him, like Cedric Tillman, just the Tennessee receiver. I mean,
Well, talking about this like on the field issues, I think that two teams have scored pretty well last year in the last couple drafts anyway. With you guys getting Pickens right, and then Garrett Wilson going to the Jets, who potentially had issues over there too. Like I think that teams are starting to look the other way from the on field. It's the
oh
off the
yeah,
field shit. We can teach you on the field all the time,
yeah,
right?
oh yeah,
Yeah, any coach can get the players on the
And like that's if you think about like college football, like the best athletes are going to shine. It's not always the best, most polished route runner. It's not going to be the guy with the best hands. It's going to be who's the best matchup for every single week, and like that's why you see guys like we can teach you to play football. That's what we're here for.
right.
But the things we can't teach are all the measurables,
Mm.
all the stuff like that's God given talent. We can't teach you that, but we can teach you how to play football. So in picking, same kind of deal, right? So you take, see, like you were saying, why wouldn't you take a pick on a guy like that in the second round? Or see, like, yeah, we always say quarterbacks got to be first round guys. You need that 5th year option. Receivers are good. They're becoming the new running back. I feel
Yeah.
they're so disposable now because bigger, faster, stronger is coming up every single year.
I hate when people say that because like I was at AJ, like we've just been had nothing for so many years as far as wide
Yeah.
receiver. Everybody else like, oh, they're disposable. I'm like, oh yeah, 'cause the last receiver before that was Derek frickin' Mason.
That like your receiver problem is based on Tannehill, and like I'm not saying Tannehill's bad because before last season started, I said he's a sleeper MVP candidate, but he will never reach the potential that he's supposed to reach, and it's because he can't elevate people to his level. He needs people to be at a high level to play at a high level, and that's the difference between like a quarterback that's loses in the wild card round essentially every year, or a team that's gonna like keep getting by. Yeah, hey, they made the AFC Championship once. I get it. Cool.
Yeah.
Who were your receivers?
Then it was Corey Davis and AJ Brown.
We're both of them.
They're on the other teams. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I mean.
You know why?
Uh,
They're
And
disposable.
John Smith.
Yeah.
Mostly they think they're disposable too. So
But overall, it's like Derrick Henry had 55 carries to get them there, maybe even more, right, between the two games.
Mm.
And the more carries he gets, the better your defense plays. The better your defense plays, the less likely Tannehill is to throw 4 interceptions to Cincinnati. Or just like in general, I'm just saying.
We've talked about those interceptions. We're not going to relive those.
No, I know. Look, man, I had a gunslinger quarterback for a long time. I've watched a lot of bad interceptions that like makes you sick as a fan. But if those balls fall the other way, you're like, that's why we got him. That's why that's our guy.
now you gotta watch Josh Freeman, okay?
Yeah, well, yeah.
Now
I
you
I
gotta
actually I watched
Josh-
Josh Freeman in person. I wore a Josh Freeman jersey to a game once.
Yeah,
True
I
fact.
think that person did get shot down in Florida wearing something like that. That guy was horrible.
So we're talking about the Titans. We're talking about re-signing players, big deals, right? Jeffrey Simmons got paid.
I mean, that was
Yeah.
a big
Oh,
one.
that was a big one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I've been pumping that man's tires since his draft year, really, right? Like the 8th year or 8th week of his draft year. So he's come a long way. He got paid. He's up, and this is huge because you look at a team like the Jets right now, who have a lot of players on paper offensively. Their defense is still fucking good too, but they're not
Yeah.
going to be as good if they don't have a player like Quentin Williams playing.
But yeah, I mean, overall, like, look at that steal from the Titans, right? Like, they had to let him sit out his first year
Basically,
because
yeah.
he had like a
I
heart
mean,
issue or
ACL,
something,
ACL.
right?
Who's ACL?
Oh, is that what it was?
Yeah, yeah.
Who was the guy with the heart issue? Somebody had a heart issue. I don't know if maybe he was.
Montez Sweat.
Is that what it was?
Yeah,
Okay.
he doesn't really
He
pay
still has
attention.
heart shit.
Yeah.
Okay. So, like you take that guy, and it was probably like a mid-20s pick just based on where the Titans usually are. So, like, that guy in this draft, if he was coming out, is like a top 5 pick, right?
Yeah. It had some
Like-
off the field issues that came up too, leading up to the draft.
But
that
that-
came out with.
Like, that's going to lead back to the Jalen Carter thing.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I get it, what he did, if it's true,
It was wrong.
messed up, but like Joe Mixon's been in the league a long time. So
Yeah,
like
yeah.
what Joe Mixon has done in his career is way worse. Like Alvin Kamara is way worse.
Yeah.
Like I
Simmons was just protecting his sister. That's
yeah,
all was going down there.
I get it.
But I love it. It's huge. My big thing, guys, this is the like the new GM's big first re-signing, right? Like he signed some free agents this year, which I've loved. I talked about them before. He's obviously an analytics guy because they score really high on the RAS score,
Right.
which is a lot of these newer GMs that are coming out of the Green Bays and the Niners. This is what they're kind of doing. They're scoring analytically, right? So it's kind of nice to see that, but to see him go after Simmons early because I loved John Robinson while he was the GM of the Titans because he came from Tennessee. Like
Yeah.
he cried when Tennessee got knocked out of the playoffs. He took it like personally kind of thing, and I like that about him. But I also think that if we were still staring down the barrel of a Jeff Simmons contract, he would have been traded by now. Or he would have been traded on draft night. This would have been the same story. You guys would have seen it all over again. Me crying, losing my second favorite player on the team.
Chad and I already have a thought that Derrick Henry's getting traded during the offseason.
Shut your fucking mouth. Stop. So
Yeah, you already called Betstamp. Yeah, we need someone. We got
Can't happen. I'll say I think Kevin Byard is the one that gets traded out. I think it's what happened
Okay.
before Derrick Henry. But I'm gonna come back to again, big signing, and also the fact that the agent came out and said I only wanted 3 years, and Rand straight up said no, you're not getting that. You're getting a 4-year deal. I'm not gonna get stuck with trying to sign this guy in his prime again at 30 years old. That's what
Yep.
happened, right? So I think that's really
Smart.
cool, stuck to his guns, right? And also. Simmons said that the first thing that Rand Carthon said to him when he got signed and met him in the office was, "You're going to be a Titan here. We're not going anywhere." And then the last guy that said that about AJ Brown, we know that's not how it happened, right? So we got some at least people sticking to their word. I know, at least people sticking to their word in Tennessee, and I mean that's fun, and we'll get to see what builds from it.
Like overall, and we were talking about the draft last year and watching AJ Brown get traded and whatnot. I think that there's a realistic chance that all of our teams end up losing a player on draft day to one of those trades. And the team can come out and say they're not going to trade him. The team can say whatever.
Why's getting traded? I'll say that right now.
So I agree. And I was thinking like maybe we could each come up with a player in our team that we think is getting traded. And you started with Byard, but we'll give you a reason to go back as to why it's Byard. I'm gonna say that for me, it's gonna be Deontay Johnson. One, he's signed, but he's only signed for 2 years. He was really, really unhappy that he broke that record last year of the most amount of catches without catching a touchdown. Um, he knows going into this year that not only if George Pickens is there, but if for some reason they find a way to get Jordan Addison on the team, who was a college teammate of Pickens, or some type of receiver in that nature, plus a couple of guys that they picked last year that were hurt. Um, Deontay Johnson's not going to have the role that he's going to have, and this is the year to get the value for him. So I don't want him to get traded, but I think that there's a very high likelihood that day 2 of the draft, he's moved for a second round pick.
Yeah. Devin White's gone. Like I know that. I figured they were going to sign him or David. It's going to be one of them. You can afford both of them. You paid your D line last year. We had to re-sign a couple DBs. We paid James Dean way too much money.
Yeah.
We already talked about that. So I was like, well, it's pretty safe now. Devin White's gone.
Right.
I can't see them trading any offensive weapons because like all those guys have just been re-signed. Except for I think Evans has 2 years left on his deal, like he'd be the only expendable one.
Right.
But I don't think there's a value for a 30-year-old receiver.
You're not going to get anything more than a 5th or 6th round pick, and at that point, you might as well keep him.
A guy like Devin White, you'll get a first. I wouldn't say a first, but you're gonna get a second for him probably.
High second.
High second for him, or you'll get a good package, like a late second and probably a 3 as well.
Yeah.
He already came out and said like I don't think he wants to be there.
The team's not too happy. Like the team's saying, "Fuck that. We're gonna keep him either way."
That's what I was going to say. Like, it's kind of interesting that players like DeAndre Hopkins, we talked about being interviewed and saying, you don't have to say where you want to go, but use your body language where you want to go. That type of interview, and then Devin White coming out and saying, "I would love to go and play with Bob Wagner over in Seattle." And the conversation has just been had. Like it just started, and you guys are already talking about other teams openly like that. There is no way to kind of reconcile that. I feel like it
Right.
doesn't. If you come back, you've already openly just said "fuck you" to your team. They just
Right.
like want to walk on kind of thing, right? It's really strange that I feel they're doing that. It just shows no even more or less loyalty than I think we've seen over the years. Some of these holdouts and the silly actions, but
He came out and said "Peace Tampa" like 2 days after the season ended on his
yeah.
social medias, and I was like,
Now,
"Sweet, that's exactly what I wanted to see today."
now as far as like draft pick, like okay, I can maybe see second round, yeah, for a wide receiver, I could see that. But these off the ball backers, they get shit as far as deals, right?
Yeah.
Like they really have. I may be biased when I say this, but David Long, he couldn't stay healthy, but he was one of the highest graded PFF backers in the league. Fantastic off the ball, like, interceptions, forced fumbles. He got a $5 million deal.
The only person that got paid as a backer was Edmonds from Buffalo. He ended up in Chicago, right?
Yeah,
And even
and I
like,
feel that was probably just to get him to the floor.
yeah,
Everybody's doing their best to get to the floor
like
this season.
like TJ Edwards was the middle linebacker for the Eagles, and he also signed with Chicago. So I mean, Chicago's defense is getting fierce again, but like he took a pretty team friendly deal to go to Chicago, and then Edmonds coming in, like I don't know, like that's all. I mean, it's a good defense that you're looking at. It's going to be a hard team to run against, but yeah, you're right. Like I think at the high end, he took like 8.5. Like if you're averaging,
It's like it's a pass league now, right? So you can hide linebackers.
Well, that's what, like,
That's what I mean. You don't have to be those big downhill guys. They don't exist anymore.
yeah,
Same kind of thing. You're an oversized DB as who's an outplaying linebacker, and once again, you can find those every year. The next one coming up, every year the pro game gets more like the college game. So you're getting kids coming to college already know more than what some NFL players do in that system.
right.
So yeah, for a lot of these guys, why would you pay a linebacker $10+ million a year when I can go take that money and get two good DBs? Instead of running 5 sets every time.
Isaiah Simmons, right? This money backer idea has really just kind of taken that extra step. And those off the ball backers, I mean, they're great in coverage, but they're 5'11" and 210 pounds. They're just not built to take the beating. They can't really cover against the run. The majority of them, there are a few that can do that, but that's why the off the ball backer, like, I'm surprised in the passing league that they're not really like accepted and paid more.
Yeah.
But at the same time, yeah, you can go and get yourself a nickel backer or some sort of like Isaiah Simmons that can play that dual up in the box or down in the box type of safety and get really good value at probably $6 million, and he covers three positions, similar to like the a different relation, but Taysom Hill, right? Like
Yeah.
the Saints only have this guy because the guy does four positions. He's a gunner, he's a tight end, he's a quarterback, and he's a receiver, right? Like he can do all.
And then whatever position he did for Sean Payton.
Yeah, that too. Yeah, but it opens up as far as how many people you can dress on game day when you have one guy that can do all those things for you, right?
Yeah, well, in this draft, like it's Brian Branch from Alabama. Like
Yeah.
he's that guy. He didn't test well. He's not fast. Whatever. Blah blah
That's what
blah.
that position is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he
That's literally what that position is.
yeah he's exactly what you're describing, and it's weird to think that like that guy is a guy that keeps falling down like draft boards. If for some reason the Steelers were to take him, I would be ecstatic. Even at 17.
Well, you look at I've been looking at a lot of rankings because the Lions are in need of a backer, I would say, because Anzalone's he's a great player. He can tell the defense what to do. And then Malcolm Rodriguez last year, who's kind of like what we're talking about right now. He's a small guy, but he can play sideline to sideline, really made some noise. I more or less see the Lions trading for a guy like Evan White when we have the pick capital. You're saying you want to win now.
I'll take that pick.
Oh, you're talking about bringing people in. We're talking about who on your roster is going to get
I
traded.
know that, and I was gonna say I would see the Lions more either if they're gonna if someone's on our roster, I would say DeAndre Swift, just based on the fact they brought in Montgomery. You can also invest in a running back with the pick capital you have. You don't have to be the first or second round. If you're just looking for that back to throw the ball to it on the backfield, then you can pick. Usually, you can find those guys.
I also don't think Swift will live a flight.
Well, I think you nailed it though. Like
Yeah.
Swift is the guy to get traded. Like
Yeah, and
I
I'm actually
agree.
a fan of Swift. Like I'm a big fan of he when he's healthy, he's very effective. But he's not a guy that this offseason they're gonna go, okay, now we gotta pay you or franchise tag you. We're not paying you that money.
But what's the appropriate pick for a Swift?
You do a 3.
Yeah,
3 or 4.
yeah, or a late 2, but probably a 3 or 4. But
I-
I mean, I think that's worth it, especially when you can invest in, I would say, another back. Like we talk about a guy that sneaks around from
So I
Illinois.
say the kid from
Like,
Illinois.
There is no way that we're looking at a kid like from Illinois that we love, that is looking at a second round pick coming out of the draft, that DeAndre Swift with NFL workload on him, that has shown what he can do in the NFL, is getting a second or third. That guy's getting fifth top. If Jeff Okudah gets a fifth, I feel like a guy like a Warren
Yeah.
gets a fifth, maybe a sixth. You know?
but I don't think Swift's getting traded. I think they're gonna want to run Montgomery and Swift together, just like they did with Williams and Swift last year.
They're gonna have to protect off. They have to use that offense or that running type of offense. They play off the play action.
And we have a very good O line. If we were to make a trade, it's either going to be for Devin White or the Lions are going to say we're going to get rid of our later first round pick and we're going to move up and take a guy like Will Anderson to play across from Aiden Hutchinson. Or if Jalen Carter's there, they'll put them together. But I think personally, the pass rush has been the issue. Last year we could stop the run. You brought two guys back that were part of that defense in the interior last year. You already have Lee McNeil.
Yeah.
Why not trade up to grab Will Anderson when realistically at the 18 you're in a tough spot because you don't really need O line. You're not. I don't see the Lions reaching for a receiver there when you have 2 second-round picks. You're not grabbing a linebacker.
They don't need receiver.
Yeah.
Like,
Well,
what are you picking 6?
I can see them taking a guy like I've heard they're really interested in this Hayek kid. And that's why I brought him up earlier because I've been reading a lot of stuff. But it's like you're not going to invest in a receiver there. There's no chance at 18. You could invest in a tight end, but then
I was gonna say, correct me if I'm wrong, but like tight end is the spot.
Yeah, Dalton Kincaid is who they would look at. I think.
You don't think Myers? Or do you think Myers is gone?
He could be gone, but I just think that Kincaid's the guy that fits more of our scheme. Like it's tough to say though, because we reach on tight ends all the time. We took Hawkinson, we took Ebron, like we reach on tight ends. So
Yeah.
I don't know who you would think.
To me, like, and Chad will love this, but like I'm taking pedigree over anything. Like, when was the last Utah tight end good? I'm taking any fucking Notre Dame tight.
Every time.
If you could take an interior lineman or a tight end from Notre Dame, sign me up.
There was
I'm totally cool with that, but it's just and then you got to think. I think they're gonna get rid of that pick. Honestly, I think the 18 not with the Lions on, but
I would package that pick with that 7th pick, and then you get that pass rusher.
Exactly.
Like you're laughing. You can get Will Anderson and Aiden Hutchinson.
Even if you can move up a couple spots and get Wilson, like I think Tyree Wilson is as good. Just he didn't have the opportunities, right? Like if you're playing against the run and gun offense the whole time, you as a pass rusher doesn't make sense. Like the SEC pass rusher is always going to be more attractive because they're playing in that type of an offense.
And if Chicago is one of the teams that are our main competition, then you have to contain Fields, right? So if you have 2 really strong defensive ends that can run like almost a quarter, like if you're running sub 4-5 flats underneath, most likely. If you get 2 guys like that, that can be very, very scary. But I just don't know with the Lions regime what they think.
That would be scary. And the other thing that's going to be scary good, and this is a quick announcement here. In about a week, we are going to have our brand new spring version of our hot sauce. So we're not going to tease what the flavor is. We're not going to tease anything, but that hot sauce is going to be coming from the Hot Sauce Co. And you can find us at the Kellogg's Market on 2 weekends from now.
You have to do the ad.
I have to do the ad?
You have to read it.
Okay.
That's the rule.
Yeah, but he told us we didn't have to. All right, so this is from our friends over at Betstamp. Today's podcast is brought to you by Betstamp app, which helps thousands of people bet for free. The same way travelers at Google Flights and Expedia find the best prices, bettors can find the use of Betstamp to do the same. When you place a bet, the odds are given to the sports books, which determines how much you could possibly win, even with the betting outcome being different. Different sports books give you different payouts, which are a huge difference. This can make you thousands of dollars.
Good one. I like it.
Check.
Now, just because you were talking with, I can't find it right now, and I'll have to find it later if I put it up on our socials. But there was a really good report on return of investment. I know that you love that term when you're talking with your bets.
What happens?
Chad's so happy right now because like that's what he wanted the whole time was us to have actual ad reads.
Like the most obnoxious ad reads possible. I was so excited that whole time. No more freestyling it. Give me a piece of paper that says,
boys, wave.
Exactly what I'm
Boys, wave. You're on TV with 80 people in Oklahoma.
Hey, Kelly.
What up, Buffalo Wild Wings?
What I was reading anyways, there was a good report about how a tight end, according to this fella, basically should never be taken in the first 2 for sure, and potentially even 3 first rounds of the draft. There's just no return there on the tight ends outside of Notre Dame tight ends was about the only thing, and he did mention pedigree. He did say pedigree in his little story too. That some schools have pedigree, and it does matter. But he said it takes an overwhelmingly like when we're grading quarterbacks, an overwhelmingly tight that can compete against that quarterback to even say. So unless you're taking tight end number one, he says it does not need to be valued in the first, second, or potentially even third round. And I'm kind of willing to gamble with that. I kind of think that's true. A lot of tight ends take 5 years, and his big argument was tight ends are like goalies in the NHL. They take between 5 to 7 years to really develop, and by that time they're on their second or third contract, and they're off to the next team, and they're getting paid by the next team, and you're not reaping the reward anymore on that one, right?
Yeah, I
Kind
mean,
of similar to offensive linemen. So he's just saying the same thing. We don't take a lot of offensive linemen outside of tackles because they're athletic in the first round. So why should we start taking tight ends? That they're not outside of being athletic, they bring nothing else to the table.
I mean, unless
I
you
think
know
I'm
you're
Notre
drafting
Dame as
Travis,
well.
if you know you're drafting Travis Kelsey or Tony Gonzalez or George Kittle,
Like those guys
you're
are
in a
normal
different
first
spot.
round guys.
Even Kelsey, think about Kelsey.
I agree.
His huge knock for a long time, and then tight ends are expected to block. But the guy could not hold a block to save him for 4 years. That was his big knock. Now that doesn't. He is a far better blocker than he ever was before. And that's first the point though. It took him almost 7 years before he kind of knocked that whole idea of him being a poor blocker.
So Kelly is watching and she's commenting. She's saying part of the money that Jalen's getting is because of the man he is and the leader he is. And couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
Totally think that he like so I said this on my update on the weekend. If for some reason Anthony Richards becomes the first overall pick, he owes a beer to Jalen Hurts. Because I think that they're similar in every way, except for I believe that Richards probably has a little bit more athleticism in the arm.
Also, can we just give a shout out to OU's gymnastics team won the national championship
Is that
this
right?
week? Yeah.
There you go.
So
Go.
I don't know a lot about gymnastics, but I saw they won a national championship. So having a following at OU, we probably should say congratulations.
All right,
The only time I'm going to say
Ke-
go OU.
Kelly, for you, we will find a way to get Chad to do a cartwheel. That's gonna be a tough thing to
that's
watch.
That's ACL gone.
Yeah. All right, back on track. Back on track. Yeah, I mean, if we're looking at that, I guess now we move on to the Titans. You think Bayard is going to get traded from Tennessee?
Yeah.
Do you know where you think he might get traded and what he might get traded for? And then after that, we might just decide who's going to be the surprise player traded or biggest name player traded on draft day. That's not Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
Fuck that guy. We're not talking about him anymore.
Yeah.
Nice names.
I also heard that I read a report that the Titans are sniffing around that, saying if nothing falls through for another works, then it falls through, give us a call. I don't want that. I don't want it.
I thought that would be the right move for them last year.
Yeah. As far as the landing spot for Bayard, I don't know where it would go. I know that the team probably wouldn't do Bayard dirty because they're already trading him from the team that he said he wanted to play and finish his entire career. He wanted to be a one career or one team player for his career. So hopefully somebody kind of local. But the reason why I say that the trade is likely or more likely to happen than like Derrick Henry as an example is that our offense was god awful last year.
True.
If we don't have Derrick Henry this year, what the hell are we going to do? How are you going to field tickets by not having offense? Like Nicholas Westbrook, he's going to be our number one again with Traylon Burks on number two because basically lost his rookie year. It just doesn't make sense to do that. Whereas Bayard, they've already shown multiple times since Vrabel's been there that they can plug and play a lot of people. And now the one steadfast has been Bayard. He's not missed a single game, and he's started every one of them, and yada yada yada. But the relationship may be broken. Like it just may not be there for repair. Somebody leaked out that they asked him for a pay cut, or that they were already asked him for a trade kind of thing, or he asked for a trade, and then Rand had to come out and say that didn't actually happen. Where did that
Right.
get leaked from? If it's not coming from Tennessee, it's coming from Bayard's camp, right? Or somebody from Bayard, right? So
Or a team that's interested.
or a team that could be floating a name out there. Yeah. So if I'm picking a player on the Titans, that's who I would think that we could look at saying goodbye to. We have a lot of money invested in the defense over the next few years, whereas on offense we don't. And we mentioned before, I got 140 million reasons to spend money next
Yeah,
year, right? So
Right. And go ahead.
Good. Now you finish out this one.
No, I was just gonna throw out a couple names out there that I thought were gonna get drafted or traded during the draft. And there's gonna be big names. I mean, last year there were some big names.
Zach Wilson, one of them.
I didn't have Zach Wilson because I don't think he's a day one draft. I mean, I don't see the Packers taking him as comp. I think
My question is like, how does he go back in that locker room? He already lost them last year,
yeah,
and then they spent this whole season. Their GM came out and said Aaron Rodgers will be a Jet.
yeah. I
So
mean,
how does a guy like Zach Wilson like by the sounds of his confidence isn't the greatest anyways. And there's no way he walks back in that locker room
Man.
with any respect from his teammates.
Zach Wilson is hanging out at Joe Douglas's mom's house right now.
Who took over for Favre when he was in New York and got hurt? Who was the backup there at that time?
I wanted to say Chad Pennington, but I don't think that that's accurate.
Maybe before the first time. Was that one of the McNown guys? One of his
McCown's,
McCown's,
one
like,
of his 9 teams or
yeah.
20 teams or whatever.
Liam, who was the backup quarterback when Favre played for the Jets?
I'm just wondering. I'm just trying to
Like,
keep this whole storyline going.
Sanchez?
Was it maybe Sanchez?
No,
Sanchez makes sense.
It might be actually
Sanchez.
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 Sanchez would have been the year after, probably. Like when did Favre play for?
Jets. 12.
No, we'd have to go. Was it that late? Because like Sanchez would have played for the Jets in like.
Well, no, because he went to the Vikings after the Jets, right?
Oh wait, it was Vince's rookie year.
No,
So it
yeah.
was 07 that he was there.
So yeah, so like Sanchez played for the Jets in 09 because they played the
So
Steelers in the
eight,
AFC
yeah.
Championship game.
So it would have been 8 then.
So anyway, a player that took over anyway, the helm, right? And I mean, we know that was it
Brett Ratcliffe?
Ratcliffe?
Well, yeah, he got injured.
Household name.
Yeah. Well,
Great
It's
Jets.
the only time that guy's name's ever been said on a
Yeah.
podcast.
but
It was ours.
Joe Namath. Joe Namath took over from Brett Favre apparently.
at the same time, like if I'm Zach Wilson, right, like where's the opportunity in the league that I go and I get the opportunity to play right now, or even can chase a starting position any earlier than Aaron Rodgers potentially only being there
Yeah.
for 2 years, right? Like there's still an opportunity to learn and grow behind a future Hall of Famer. We have no idea how he teaches, but Jordan Love seems to say that he teaches pretty damn well.
I think Jordan Love
Yeah.
had to say that.
Yeah,
Did he? Like,
and
does he? Does he have to say that, guys?
no, you know what? Like I think Jordan Love is gonna be like one of those surprise guys that like he's not gonna be a top 10 quarterback, but he's gonna be better than Jared Goff.
No,
I can see
Jordan
that.
Love is awesome.
Like,
Have you seen him play?
In reality, like
I'm talking with
outs-
two same offenses as far as like how
outside
it's
of
designed.
like what Jared Goff has did for the Rams, not done for the Rams, but did for the Rams. Like what has he done in the league? Nothing. So I think that there's a lot of potential for Jordan Love to be above and beyond what Jared Goff ever was.
Jared Goff was a stud last year.
Come on.
Last 7 games, 0 interceptions.
How did he do in the
How many
wild?
other quarterbacks
how-
did that in the league last
How
year?
did he do in the wild card round? Oh, not good.
I think he had a broken finger that game against
Just
Green Bay, honestly.
that's the thing. It's bullshit. Like you can't say that your quarterback's like next level if he's
No,
not
he's-
even leading your team to the playoffs. Like your roster's loaded. If your roster's loaded and you don't make the playoffs, your quarterback sucks.
But coming back to what Jordan Love though, I would have loved to, the guy that came up with the confidence was all as high as Alan just said, like, nah, this is my team. I don't like what Aaron's doing now.
Yeah.
I think he's kind of stringing the fans along right now, and he's going into his deep, deep, dark hiatus. Thanks
Right.
for the few years of coaching me, man, and whatever you did for me. But like, it's kind of bullshit at this point, right? Should have get off the pot, figure it out.
Yeah, he comes out and says that when he shits the fucking bed that like he's lost that fan base.
Well, I mean, hey, it's not much different than a player's coming in and saying like, "I'm ready to compete. I'm going to give it all my all," kind of thing. It's the exact same thing. It's just taking it by the horns, right? You're going to win over half the fan base that has probably lost. Aaron Rodgers has lost over the last
Yeah.
couple of years, and you're going to lose half the fan base that says like,
That's just a Green Bay fan. They're like, these are the same fucking people who like thought Brett Favre was fucking God. And the second you walked into town, they would fucking piss on that guy's Cheerios.
Yeah. Well,
And then they said Aaron Rodgers was the man. And Aaron Rodgers didn't even touch the field yet at that point.
that's the thing. Like people hold Brett Favre in high regard, and like he deserves a little bit. And Aaron Rodgers, obviously the same thing. But like both those guys have won one championship, and like I get that we judge on championships, we judge on all that, but like if you were a Green Bay fan, you're telling me that you would take Brett Favre or Aaron Rodgers over Dan Marino at any point in time.
Okay, that's just I think like a historical for us being young and remembering Brett Favre and like living
Yeah.
in that lore. Because what's something we make fun of Kirk Cousins all the time for? Guy gets all the yardage in the world and he gets
Yeah.
touchdown
Whoa,
stats.
I don't make fun of Kirk Cousins.
Well,
that guy's agent is a fucking.
Yeah, well, yeah,
Well,
that agent's smart. But like, make
like-
fun of the fact he's a stat guy. He's got all
You-
these high numbers.
You think Brett Favre, like I think of sitting at Fatty Patty's with you and Rick
Yeah.
and a few of the other boys and like watching Brett Favre play the game after his dad passed away.
Yeah.
Like
Wow.
that is my image of Brett Favre. And like, yeah, that's next level. But that doesn't make you compete with championship quarterbacks just because of that. Like Brett Favre won a fucking Super Bowl before any of us even cared about the Super Bowl.
Can we talk about how Green Bay Packers fans don't actually know the reality that's coming.
It's gonna be a dark little.
They
future.
have 40 years of quarterback play almost. Definitely 30 for sure.
So you're writing off Jalen Love,
Jordan Love?
whatever, him too.
So I guess what they could do is just take a look over at the Colts and look at what's happened to them over the last few years, right? Just don't go recycling old quarterbacks. Please don't do
No,
that.
like, I think you drafted Jordan Love to be a backup to Aaron Rodgers. That's what he was.
In the first round, wild.
That's the part that blows me away.
Traded up too. No, did trade up. Did trade up?
Yeah.
2022, 23. I think.
Yeah, it's something like that. They might have traded up a spot or two.
But yeah, like they've been so set at quarterback for almost, I guess, we'll say 30 years. That was 1990, like Brett Favre got there. And now, like, you don't know what you're actually walking into. You got rid of Devontae Adams last year. You have no quarterback this year. Christian Watson could be a good receiver, but who the fuck's throwing the football?
Yep.
And now what? You gotta start all over again?
And Romeo must die out there.
Yeah.
Romeo Dobbs trying. Look,
And like, that defense is getting older. So like there could be some really like you're probably loving your life over here being a Lions fan. You're gonna have there could be some dark days in Green Bay, and like that team hasn't seen that in such a long in our lifetime. It's been a long time since Green Bay's been a bad football team.
Mm.
Like
Kelly's heated.
yeah, I see that. Yeah,
you don't even got there yet.
80,000 people were at the spring game, and obviously Kelly's excited about Cliff Kingsbury going to USC, which is funny because he bought a one-way ticket to Thailand or something and saying like, I'm not coming back.
2 weeks later has a deal.
Yeah, 2 weeks later has this deal like Lincoln Riley, obviously, and like what Kelly is alluding to is she thinks Lincoln Riley will be in the NFL next year, which probably puts Cliff Kingsbury as the head coach of USC, which like crazy to think, but like I think that that's reality. I think that that's highly possible for something like that to happen. And I was talking to a buddy at work today, and he's a Lions fan, and he's like, Caleb Williams, Caleb Williams, Caleb Williams. I said, no. Drake May. Drake May is your guy. That's the guy that you want to. That's the guy that you want to look at. He is everything that Josh Allen wants to be, but the guy's a winner, and his family are just a bunch of proven athletes.
Here's the problem. We're not going to have a top 10 pick. It's like, this year we have the 18th overall.
Here's the
pick.
problem. You're a Lions fan thinking that. That's the actual problem.
We have 18th pick this
Yeah,
year.
you guys are hosting
We're
the
six.
you guys are hosting the fucking draft. You're gonna be the first overall pick.
No, we're going
Let's
to
not fuck up the draft.
in that 25.
I think that because you guys had a good year for the first time in however many years, that
Like
somehow,
the new Titans.
some way, you guys have to fuck it up at the draft.
Yeah.
There's no way you can go this entire football season with all this glorious come from behind, fighting through and getting victories, making the playoffs. Something's got to happen to the Lions to make it a Lions football
Your
season.
best leader left.
Oh,
Jamal Williams. He's the leader in the locker room. Peace out.
No, that guy's just one of the coolest cats around.
he's a cool guy.
He's
I mean-
really awesome.
I mean, I'm sad he left, but we upgraded, so
You upgraded.
we upgraded.
You got David Montgomery
You
is
know
your
what?
upgrade.
That guy's a stud.
Stop it.
That guy
Yeah,
is-
I would have paid Jamal Williams $7 million a season out of it.
Yo,
Yeah.
you naturally should be wearing a Leafs hat when you talk shit like that. Like that is so ridiculous that you think that David Montgomery is a stud. Chad and I criticized that guy for being a first round pick for 3 or 4 years.
He's gonna have over 1,500 yards this season.
1,500 yards.
1,500 yards.
I'll put.
I'll take
I
it
will
now.
right now. I have
Right now.
sign me up.
Let's put a bet
I'll
on this
give you
show.
plus 250 on that right now.
Dude, I'll take it. He's having
Hot sauce.
over.
Hot sauce.
Yeah,
Hot wing challenge.
yeah. If he goes over 1,500 yards
You're
rushing,
hot sauce.
over 1,500 yards rushing,
Yeah.
then I will eat a hot sauce of your choosing. And if he goes under rushing, you will eat a hot sauce that we can talk. We get Jesse to make for you.
I'll do
Alright.
it. Really do. I'll
Oh,
give you
shit.
He did 1,000 last year, like 1,200. He's having over 1,500.
I'll even give you 1 wing for my 2 wings. There's no way that guy's going to have 1,500 yards. I'll give you 2 to 1 on that right now.
I'm down. I'm down.
Like,
Dumbest
bec-
thing you could have ever said.
because he's a pass catcher too. Like you're basically saying he's a 2,000-yard guy. You got to stop, man.
He's
Well-
gonna be. I can't wait to see it.
While we're
It's not gonna
talking
come around,
about
it's like Lions
He
aren't
has
getting-
one big
Li-
weekend in his life and looks like he comes in here swinging.
Lions ain't getting 500 next last year, and then All I remember, over 500 this year. And last year, everyone's like, "You guys won't win 5
Josh.
games." You won 3.
Josh, you got to cross second base before you score. You know what I'm saying? Those are things that those are real things.
So I just want to, because we're talking about dark times ahead and everything, and I think Arizona is a team that is really in
And
some dark times ahead.
I agree.
And it's not just like the trades. I feel like the second that the ink was put on the contract, and there was obviously a reason the stipulation was put in there with the whole homework and everything like that. But the minute the ink was put on there, I didn't think that the GM had a friggin' idea what was next for the team. And then you look at the team, you look at around it, it doesn't. Tyler Murray could have been good. I don't still. DeAndre Hopkins still thinks he would probably want out, right? You lost your best corners back-to-back seasons: Patrick Peterson, Byron Murphy. You have Buda Baker, who wants more money or he wants out. Your offensive line, can you name one? I can't tell you an offensive lineman from Arizona. It's been that way for about 25 fucking years.
Have them beat you.
Is that it? That's because he's a former Steeler, isn't it? Yeah, there you go. Defensive line, J.J. Watt retires, right? Like we talked about Isaiah Simmons earlier. This is a guy who 2 years ago was mocked because where he was drafted and he couldn't fit the NFL, and suddenly he did find his groove, but he's still not the best player on the defense. Like that's still going to be players like
Yeah.
Buda Baker or J.J. Watt when he was there. There's just no depth on this team. Can you tell me the wide receivers? Because they traded Andy Isabella away, right?
You're the only guy who knew him.
I don't think because of his speed.
Holly Weird.
There's nobody else on there. DeAndre Hopkins will be gone soon. Their tight ends.
Hollywood Brown.
They have who's their tight end? Is it Max Crosby? I think
Trey
he's
McBride.
Trey McBride, who's a back. He was a
He was a top
Zach
tight end
Ertz.
last
Yeah.
draft
That
lottery.
hurts.
Zach Ertz. Okay, y'all. Zach Ertz. The tail end of his career. But again, there's just nothing there. I feel looking at that team where the money's wrapped up in Kyler now. It's
James
all guaranteed.
Conner's the running back.
James Conner. That's another big problem,
You know
right?
Benjamin too is going for that.
That's another
No,
problem.
I think they cut him, man.
Yeah, they cannot wait the season after he's playing good games.
So
Yeah, so he's not a running back for them anymore.
It's just astounding
He
looking
should
at
be.
it's astounding looking at that division where as the Cardinals, when that deal was signed, you look at the teams around you. The Hawks were obviously on the other side of their life cycle, right? The Niners were the only team you had to compete against because you saw what the Rams did. They put all the money into it, and they were going to be going the other way soon. Just it's weird that they weren't able to capitalize in Arizona like they should have
Yeah.
on a week what was going to be a week upcoming division.
Sorry, boys. I guess the girls are thinking I'm a little bit too handsome to be on screen right now.
You're not gonna rest us over here.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I mean, the Buda Baker thing makes sense. I mean, Buda Baker's a second round pick, right?
Oh yeah, I mean you're looking at top 3 safeties in the league right there.
And you're looking at DeAndre Hopkins, like
Come on, a big injury, but
again, you're not looking at a first round pick, so you're probably looking at a second. So like, you need to find the right partner.
what
But
trade for him?
they gave a bag for him.
It was David Johnson in the first, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, but I don't think you're gonna get even a second for.
But
David
that,
Johnson.
I mean, that was a team fleecing Houston, right? Like
Yeah.
Houston, that coach didn't last very much longer.
Well, the coach GM.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. That
Bobby
just-
O'Brien.
Brian Smith, you won the NFL Hall of Fame after the stunt he
Yeah.
pulled in week 17 of my
No,
notes.
that's like what is it? I think it's Casino where Joe Pesci says it's the last thing they ever gave a couple street guys anything that fucking valuable again. Like 100%, there is no way that any of these New England motherfuckers are getting any of that again.
Mm-mm.
And like Bill O'Brien, he's back as what, like the OC of
OC
New
in New
England,
England, yeah.
So like,
Which is so
yeah,
surprising. I said a long time ago I thought he was like perfectly lined up to take over in Alabama when Saban retired.
So literally, the whole thing is you go to Alabama, you get your job back.
Pretty much, yeah.
Bill Belichick just sits you down there for a year, so everybody forgets about you, and then you come right back up.
yeah. Well, I mean, in something like that is what happens. I mean, Belichick finds something for you because he's smart enough. Nick Saban and Belichick are basically attached at the hip. So there's been nobody that goes into that OC spot. And I'm sure if we research the DC spot, we'd find similar traits. But there's nobody that goes into those that doesn't end up moving on to the right situation for them. I mean, who else is in those? Like Sark?
Sarkisian?
Yeah, I mean, he ended up in Texas, and like, say what you want about Texas
He
football,
said
like
Saban saved
recruit,
his career.
but I mean, like recruiting is back, right? I mean, the white orange game happened, and
I didn't watch you, by the way.
Yeah.
he threw some passes. Like he made himself the clear backup.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
it was already announced. Like,
That's what I saw.
Yeah.
And I was like, I didn't know if it was like one of those like football like
Yeah,
leagues just saying like, hey, he's not ready. Because like he looked like a high school quarterback playing with men.
and that's exactly what it is. And
Big
like,
fat.
there's no way that he can survive in the Big 12, and then next year he'll probably be the starter going into the SEC. you'll see what happens with that, and hopefully Kelly's still paying attention and she can let us know what the Oklahoma quarterback situation is like. But I don't know what that transition
Are they
looks
going to
like.
redshirt Arch this year? Kellen, are they said?
What's that, sorry?
Are they redshirting?
No, no, I don't think Archie Richard. I haven't read anything about that yet.
No,
But it's been very open, like about 3 weeks ago, where they said it was Quinn's team. Yeah.
in general, like I don't see the red shirt thing being an option for him because regardless, he's leaving after 3 years, right? So like he's got this year as a backup to Ewers. He'll probably start next year, and he'll start the
So
year
is
after that,
Ewers
and then
next
he's
to
gone.
offense of the role this year in the draft?
Oh, I'll probably go in the draft, depending on how this year. Like, he had a great year last year. I mean, think about this year.
If there was no injury, like Texas is in the national championship conversation last year.
And then you look at this is an incredibly weak quarterback draft coming up next
Yeah.
season, right? You go Caleb Williams, and who's the other one that they're
Drake,
taking?
May.
Bo Nix, too.
So-
Not bad.
Yeah,
Tyler Shaw.
but he's
Bo Nix is going to be a 7th-round pick.
yeah, I mean, that's a major project guy. But
Sam Hartman's my boy. He's
Yeah.
not getting drafted.
Yeah, Bo Nix left his grandpa's alma mater to go to Oregon because he was.
last year.
Go ahead, Kayla.
maybe yeah, I think like Quinn would be Quinn go to the draft and then Arch comes in.
No, I
It
agree.
makes the most sense. I think that if the way that Arch coming to Texas, there's no way you can sit him down and say, listen, you are going to be the face when we go to SEC, barring an injury, right?
Yeah. Are we doing like our annual mock draft again this year? Like where we just do it in our text and then post it after?
Sure.
We should do that, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what day what day you guys want to do it?
That's not a right idea.
Like Monday or Tuesday?
Sure.
Yeah, Monday or Tuesday sounds about right. I mean, we don't need.
We're already busy, so.
Yeah. But I mean, this is whatever. Like now that we have Josh making picks too, and like I don't know, did we have Liam make picks last year?
Just all three of us.
Yeah, so like now we'll have 4 of us, but there's only 31 picks, so we'll be making a little bit less picks. So, um, go ahead. What's up?
Well, it's nice weather and everything. Before we get out of here, it's like a funny story that we probably haven't talked about yet. Is the Russell Wilson incident, right?
Haven't seen
Yeah,
it.
he tipped a golf cart.
The golf cart into a bunker, and I know
I
that
forget.
that's exactly. I was going to say we can all look at each other and say even that God-loving millionaire has done that mistake on the golf course, right?
He said, "Let's ride" before he did.
Jesus, take the wheel.
Yeah.
But I've been some pretty close calls, and I've seen you take a tip or two. So
Oh yeah,
yeah,
going up that hill in Dorchester, like, yeah,
That one wall on Cobble Hills, the down ski hill.
that's the one you don't want
Oh,
to fall
yeah,
down.
yeah.
Like that one, you just ride the brake on and say, "No, I'll walk."
That's death.
Yeah.
That's just death.
it's like going to play Echo Valley, and that one guy that shows up to walk, and you're like, you're doing that, are you? You're doing that.
Look at this guy, Captain Fitness.
But yeah, we're probably ready to sign out here. Keep an eye out for the daily bread. You know, Kayla was talking about religion there. What did you have about our daily bread today?
Today is Matthew Tkachuk to score a goal. Yesterday was Boba over hit half. It hit, so just keep riding.
Right now, the only person that hasn't hit is Chad because your fight went to a decision, right?
Yeah.
All right, so everyone.
Actually, I thought Allen was going to win that fight going into it too, but Max Holloway is just hard to beat, man.
Man,
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that it went over 5 rounds sucked because I definitely was on the 4.5, but
I mean, it wasn't like it was 3.5. I would have said over all day long.
yeah,
But like 4.5, I was like, nah, man, someone's gonna get finished here.
but
It's Max Holloway, the most durable fighter of all time,
it
probably.
is what it is. We'll watch out for the daily bread. We're definitely making some picks. We will tell you the best sports book to do, and of course, the best sports book we're finding is based on Betstamp. If you're in a different state like Oklahoma, I don't know if gambling is legal in Oklahoma, but you can definitely set up your preferences to find where your best odds are, but that's the best way to check it out. Look out for our mock draft. The boys are all going to be together for the actual draft because why wouldn't we be? I think Josh is going to dick around, but check out that. Check out all the stuff we got going on. We're definitely going to drop some hot sauce posts, and we will be back shooting a little bit of content together in about 10 days. So.